and they'll be out of the top 25. I'm banking on that game.
I mean, I think you're right, but Slovis, I had forgotten Slovis was their quarterback. That does make me at least say, okay, well, they do have a quarterback.
Yeah. We'll see. That one's going to be a good one for me. Tennessee first out of the top 25. Texas, hold up, the coaches poll.
Yep.
Texas was what, 17?
18.
18? Okay, see, that's why. Then I didn't realize the coaches poll was a joke almost to a certain degree. The number one pick, the number one vote they got, and also they were in the teams, and with the AP, they're out of it. I'm a little shocked by Penn State being out of the top 25, but I guess they did have a little bit of a rocky season last year too.
I mean, the top 10 in the coaches poll and the AP are the same. I don't like preseason polls just because I think then you set this standard for some teams to have to overcome because they're starting from lower. And I think because of that, this doesn't help you at all to see where you're ranked before. Like, let's just play football games and start determining it then.
Yeah, but they have to set it for sure. Miami did not expect them to be a top 25 team. How did they finish last year, too? It's 16th, a few shockers.
16 in the list, 17th in the coaches poll.
Wow. Wowzers. They finished not rated last year.
But they've got Mario Cristobal now, who's a recruiting superstar.
Yeah.
And they think he's going to be the guy.
Coach, I'm with him. They pulled him from Oregon for a reason. You don't go get a guy like that if you don't think he is going to turn your organization around or your team around. Arkansas, I figured, would be a little bit higher. I did, just considering how they finished last season and the way Sam Pittman has been turning them around. Arkansas is a good team now. They're going back to the early 2000s, man, with the way they were good then.
1923 are the polls where they are.
Yeah. I'm shocked that Wake Forest is still at 22, considering their quarterback is going to be out, but I'm not sure if he's going to be back for the start of the season, though.
Yeah, I don't know either. They were 19th in the coaches poll, so 22nd AP. I think you just kind of believe in what Clawson is doing to do enough to put you in the mix in terms of being ranked.
The most mysterious team of them all to me is NC State.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had the big-time draft pick last year, but what does NC State have coming back? I know that's your region. Stud quarterback? That's what we're getting this year. This year is the year of the quarterback play, or the quarterback names that we know. We got Kentucky. We have, you said NC State. We got Spencer Rattler. We got USC. As far as there's a lot of good guys. Bama has Bryce Young.
NC State was 8-4 in 2020. They were 9-3 last year. 14th in the country.
Okay. You just don't hear much about
them. They're
them.
bringing back Peyton Wilson, Cecil Powell. Both of those were injured guys on defense.
Yeah.
Devin Leary, the quarterback, is a stud. They've got 2 receivers coming back that are really good, and they've got a veteran O-line. And Doran's a good coach.
Yeah. Even with the culture that Cincinnati has now, you see them staying in the top 25, or was last year the one shot?
In the top 25?
Yeah.
Yes.
They stay in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well,
we'll see how this works. I don't know. I just see, since I want to see them repeat it. I guess I'm of that mindset.
Being ranked?
Yeah, repeat being that good.
Well, you said in the top 25.
Yeah, I want to see them be that good and stay in the top 25 this year.
Why? Like I said, though, why wouldn't they?
I don't know if they can continually repeat it, but considering their conference is weaker, they play
they're not going to be in a
well.
college football playoff.
You say Cincinnati's going to beat?
No, they're not going to.
Okay. I was about to say, Jay, what?
I'm just saying the idea. When's the last time they weren't ranked?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the fairy tale season they had last year and coming up short.
Until they move conferences, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be a top 25 team, as long as their quarterback plays competent.
Yeah, it's always the case. And they have a new quarterback because Ritter's gone this year, too. But the Vols not being in the top 25 this year, for sure, Vols fans weren't, sensible Vols fans were like, okay. But the ones that was like, we deserve it, nah, let's go out and still prove it again.
You would expect Tennessee to be right there around like 24 to 27-ish.
That's where they are.
To
the point, Fickell got to Cincinnati in 2017. They were 11-2 in 2018, 11-3 in 2019, 9-1 in 2020, 13-1 last year. They've been ranked pretty much every year he's been there.
Yeah.
So that's 5 years in a row. So, and again, they're in the American Conference. So the chances they lose more than 3 or 4 games probably not real good.
Not gonna happen. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
But in terms of them being what they were like, of course not.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be in that mixture at all. That was their one shot in terms of a championship. But I don't think it was all that real. Anyway, I'm glad they got the opportunity. But, well, you saw what it was in the second half of that game.
Yeah, I'll just be keeping an eye on them because they're always interesting. They do continually put guys in the league, and they do play well. But I like to keep an eye on Cincinnati for whatever reason, man. They've been consistent as ever as of late. I just want to see them be able to, push that conference to the top and get them to a point in which they can beat those teams. They stood no chance last year in the college football playoffs.
I do think, like, I look at it and I say I have a hard time believing Tennessee is not one of the top 25 teams in the country. They're going to be able to prove that, and they're going to be there, I would say. Yeah. We'll see when we get to the end, and obviously injuries change things. But I look at them, it's just like Kentucky's rated 20, 21. Apparently they got a couple of receivers. Their defense is always good with Stoops, but that's a Levis vote.
Yeah.
A lot of that is a Levis vote.
Yep, it is.
Not that there's anything wrong with that because a lot of these are votes based on the quarterbacks. USC's 15. That's way overhyped for where I think they're going to be.
You think it's overhyped?
Yes.
Even with their transfers and Lincoln Riley?
That's going to take time.
Really?
I believe that's going to take time.
I thought it used to take time, too, until I saw Urban Meyer and Nick Saban go in a new conference and kill it.
Yeah, I do not see SC a top 15 team next year. There's just too much other stuff going on around there.
It's the same thing. I feel that. Well, Utah's in their division, and so is
Oregon's in the Pac-12. Utah's in the Pac-12. It's not a strong conference outside of those 3 teams. Yeah. But SC obviously, USC probably play. Well, I know they do. They play Notre Dame because they play them every year.
Yep.
Who else are they playing out of conference? Anybody worth their salt? Not really. But they play 2 teams preseason ranked in the top 25. Or, pardon me, top 10. Notre Dame, they finished the season with. They play Utah midseason. Outside of that, I could see them not losing because it's Rice, Stanford, Fresno State, Oregon State, Arizona State, Washington State, Arizona, Cal, Colorado, and UCLA. It's the rest of their schedule.
Not a whole lot going on.
Now, will they potentially drop one of those weird ones? Yes.
Yeah.
But I do think Tennessee is a team that will be ranked pretty quickly. I don't know what the holdup is. We'll talk to Brian Rice and ask him what he thinks. Why do you think they're just outside the top 25 based on they could finish second in the SEC East? They're going to beat Florida this year. All of those kinds of things. Does that just mean the East is that much lower? Because Florida's obviously not ranked either.
No, they're not.
And not being talked about even close to as high as Tennessee is. We'll talk to Brian Rice from Knoxville next. Jay Martin Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Is the summertime heat causing you to lose your cool? Well, don't let a broken down or older HVAC unit keep you from being comfortable in your own home. It's Ramon Foster, and I have the heating and cooling company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs, and they are Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. They offer free service calls with their repairs, plus low monthly payments on those repairs. And if you do need a new unit, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling offers 60 months no-interest financing. Plus, they can provide the financing for qualifying purchases and free estimates on replacement units. They also back their work with 10-year parts and labor warranties. So when the summer is at its hottest, they are at their best. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, available anytime at springhillac.com.
Jeremy Pruitt's a lump. Jeremy Pruitt's a lump.
That actually works.
Jeremy Pruitt's a lump. Jeremy Pruitt's a lump.
It's Jay Martin and Mo 104.5 The Zone. Wasn't expecting that. It's pretty good.
I discovered that during the break. I didn't expect it either.
Pretty good. I was just like, you didn't even tell us about it, that you had this mix. But if you just figured it out.
Just figured it out 3 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good for a call screener. To Knoxville, Brian Rice is on the line.
The best producer in the world.
Okay, whatever. B. Rice, what's going on?
I feel I don't know how to feel about that intro between first I was ready to go out there for a third down, but then I was ready to have a completely underwhelming time thanks to thinking of Jeremy Pruitt. Did you hear about him with the poker tournament this past weekend?
I did not.
No.
He made the top 20 of an $1,100 buy-in tournament up in Cherokee, North Carolina. There were like 1,000 people in it.
Hey, good for him. Got to find some type of way to get that UT money.
Was his payout in a McDonald's bag?
I was wondering about that.
I have questions about that myself, but some people were well, I didn't think he was smart enough to play like that, and I kind of take the opposite view. That poker face has got to be pretty good because he just has the same lump expression all the time. I mean,
Well, B. Rice.
He did. He played in a WSOP event. He played in a World Series of Poker event, $1,100 buy-in tournament. And so what was the payout here? He finished 23rd, $2,900 in winnings.
Yeah. So he doubled his money. Probably
almost tripled it
on that driving there.
Well, his poker face tricked us into hiring him, so it's got to be good for something, right?
That's a really good point, Ramon. That's a really good point.
That's all
I guess Giano had stuff on the bottom of the deck.
We can do this all day. I promise you I got time.
We sure can.
I promise you I got time. Is this what happens when you cheat the wrong way in sports? I mean, you go to play poker tournaments during football season?
Well, it's got to be. I mean, right now it has to be incredibly disconcerting for him because this is the first time since he was in high school, probably, or before he was in high school, that he hasn't had a football season to get ready for between high school, college, coaching, and then coaching in the NFL last year. So he's probably finding it difficult to fill the hours. He's like Tom Brady, you go home like, so this is what it's like, huh? Well, I need to find literally anything else to do.
Yeah, I figured that was the case, man. That's crazy that he's making headlines like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of poker, Vols fans poked by not being ranked.
Yeah, I thought that in the AP poll they would be ranked. I was not particularly surprised by the coaches poll, just knowing how that poll works sometimes. But Tennessee's the first team out of the top 25. I don't think that's anything to be too angry about.
Yeah.
You're going to have an opportunity. You're having an opportunity early. You have a Pittsburgh team that's ranked, I believe, 18th in one poll, and I believe that's where they are in the AP. You're going to have an opportunity to take on that in week 2, depending on what they do against West Virginia in week 1. And then obviously you have Florida a couple of weeks later. The top 25 is going to sort itself out for Tennessee over the first month of the season. So are they disrespected by not being ranked in the preseason? Maybe a little, but I don't think it's enough for fans to get fired up about with what you have out there the first 4 weeks of the season.
You think there was much reaction from the coaching staff about that, or as far as the players concerned, since they're going through camp right now? We saw this stuff when it came out, and I'm sure they did too yesterday.
I mean, I think Josh Heupel uses it as another motivator of, look, people don't respect you. People saw what you did last year, and they still don't respect you for it. So is that a little extra edge? Does that help you in week 2? Does it help you get through the doldrums of camp? Maybe a little bit. But if these guys are worried about where they are in the top 25, then they're not worried about the right things right now. But I'm sure it came up yesterday. I'm sure there was hey, people are still doubting us.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard some hype about us all summer, but when it comes down to it, people still don't believe in this football team. And I don't know that that's a bad place for them to approach the first few weeks of the season. If they were feeling a little high, it was a great way for Josh Heupel to kind of snap that back and say, guys, we haven't arrived.
Yeah. What did arrive, though, is 2 new commits. Both cornerbacks, man. One was one that Georgia was really after, and another was one Texas thought they had him. They predicted him to commit to Texas, and you pretty much snatched him out of Baton Rouge right next to LSU.
Yeah, it was a really good weekend for Josh Heupel on the recruiting front. And what I like from a football standpoint is over the past few years, the last couple of staffs have recruited defensive backs.
Yeah.
They haven't recruited corners. They've recruited guys who can kind of play all over, but not true corners. And I think where that's hurt has been very obvious. You've seen guys who are not good covering one-on-one. You've seen guys that are getting beaten time after time after time. So how have they addressed that? By going out and recruiting true corners who are ready to come in and play that position. Not, well, we might work them in at star, we might work them in at nickel, they can play safety. No, these guys are corners who are going to play corner. I love that for Tennessee, particularly with what you're going to ask defensive backs to do over the next few years. Tennessee's gone heavy on recruiting edge rushers.
Yeah.
That tells me that they want to put those guys in position to make plays, which means your defensive backs are going to have to be ready to make plays if you're taking some chances on defense up front. So I love this, but also, as you mentioned, who you beat out for guys is important. Okay, the first player out of the state of Alabama ranked as a 3-star, but you mentioned it. Picked up a Georgia offer a little earlier this summer.
Yep.
Had some other big-time offers that had come in recently. And Tennessee had been in on him from the start. Those relationships that this staff is finally having a chance to build over the course of a couple of years is paying off. And I love that. Willie Martinez brings the experience and the example of being able to point to guys who maybe were a little underrated in high school that he put in the league. Manuel Mosley's one. Cam Sutton's one. Those things matter on the recruiting trail. And then, yeah, you go to Baton Rouge and you get a guy. I think you took advantage of the uncertainty at LSU over the last year to build a relationship there. And then I think you also took advantage of what's going on at Texas. Yeah, next year's recruiting class is great, but they're still 2 years away. And I think right now there are still, some questions around Steve Sarkisian. So you go in and you pitch, here's the sure thing that we are going to do on defense at Tennessee. And, again, based on his quotes, the relationships are what made the difference there.
So, and Brian Rice is joining us here on Jay Martin Ramon. So, to that point, what you're pitching, are you also picturing, hey, we're a football school as well as a basketball school here, like unlike Kentucky? What do you make of that whole situation with Cal and Mark Stoops?
It's funny. Jimmy Himes asked Josh Heupel as he was walking away from the podium if Tennessee was a football school, and he looked at him, laughed, and said, boy, they've got a mess up there. And I think that's the best way to put it. Because you can't do this. John Calipari stepped in it. But when Mitch Barnhart blamed the media over the weekend for sensationalizing a story, no, the media didn't do anything. Okay, John Calipari sat down for an interview with The Athletic.
Yep.
He talked about what he wanted to talk about. If you read the story, it's very clear that the course of the interview was very open-ended. This is what Cal wanted to talk about. And he chose to not compare Kentucky to other basketball schools, to not compare Kentucky to other people. He went through the laundry list of, here's all the money that Kentucky spent on other sports. Where's mine?
Ooh.
And I mean, if I'm Mark Stoops, I don't like the way Mark Stoops has handled it and continued the story, but I don't blame him because Cal came after him. I mean, he said, you've spent this on football. We have the best practice facility, and I hope those guys win 10 games and go to bowl games. But we're a basketball school. He mentioned how much money they spent on the baseball stadium. If I'm the baseball coach, I'm extremely upset too, because he did the thing that you can't do, which is tell everybody that you don't think the other sports at Kentucky matter. He may not realize that's what he said, but that's what he said. And if anybody perceives it differently on that campus, they're lying to themselves. Okay, so what do you do now? I think Mitch Barnhart coming down on the side of his football coach is and mentioning, hey, coaches move all the time. I was blown away by that, but it was kind of what I suspected, which is Cal has been pushing for this practice facility, which would, by the way, be the second one he's gotten since he's been coach there. But he's pushing for this practice facility, and he's been told no. And he's been told no repeatedly. And so what did he do? Try to wage a battle for it in the media. Well, you can't do that at this level. You just can't. And he stepped in it, and I think the feedback from the athletics department there is, you know what, here's what we're doing for basketball. Yeah, it's a very important sport. No, it's not our most profitable sport. And if you've got a problem with it, there's the door. They're not going to fire Cal, but making this big play after you lost to St. Peter's in the first round is not going to help on the doorstep of football season, because it's football season. Yep. And everybody at Kentucky is excited for what they think is going to be the best football season in years, maybe ever there. And you're throwing this out right now. Cal terribly misplayed his hand here, and I'm not sure how he comes back from it unless, they go out and win big this year, win big right away. I don't know how you repair the relationships internally that he has fractured with the way he said what he said.
Yeah, the problem is, look, all those sports are constantly trying to prove their worth. And Cal basically tried to, in effect, buried him, whether he meant to or not in that moment. Like, if you want to have that discussion about your practice facilities and all that, you do that behind closed doors. Like, nobody wants to be at the restaurant where the couple that's kind of on the rocks is across the table or across the room from you arguing, and you're seeing it, and you're the kid in the meme that just keeps looking up every couple of seconds and then back down to your shoes. That's Kentucky right now. Like, infighting, that's a terrible look. And you can't do that in a year where, and Mo mentioned this yesterday, I thought the exact same thing. It's like, if I'm Heupel, if I'm anybody else that's looking at Kentucky recruit, I'm like, hey, man, do you really want to go to a basketball school when you could come play football here? Like, that right there can harm their recruiting.
Yeah. Well, and it's, if I'm Mark Stoops at the end of the year, I mean, he's turned down a lot of overtures from a lot of places over the years. So if I'm Mark Stoops at the end of the year, I think I give Mitch Barnhart credit for having my back. But at the end of the day, I start to look around and go, is this really worth it? Mm-hmm. Is it really worth it? And at the end of the day, who are the fans going to back? Yep. And I wonder what the answer to that question is, because they are a basketball school.
It's not. It's obvious.
It's been what's moved the meter there forever.
Yes.
Football's still more profitable. Football has more excitement right now. So how do you reconcile that? That's the challenge that Mitch Barnhart has. And I think he's a really good athletics director. I don't love how he's handled this, but I also don't know that he had a choice, because I think he's told Cal repeatedly behind the scenes, look, this is not our priority right now. We're not building something when we have something great already. Their practice facility opened in 2007. So don't tell me that it's way behind the others, because it's not. That's just a lie. You want something new for vanity. And, oh, by the way, your roof leaks. Call a roof company. They'll fix it, and you'll be fine.
I think also there's a possibility if you're Mitch Barnhart, Mark Stoops is maybe the best coach you're ever going to have there in terms of a football coach. And you also know eventually, I asked this yesterday, and Moan kind of thought the same way. Dude, that dude can get tired of this real fast.
Yep.
Like, it's not like there's not somebody else out there, like, I don't know, Auburn, or if it goes south with Brent Venables, maybe down at Oklahoma where the Stoops name is Roy. There's a lot of places Mark Stoops could go coach if he gets tired of this.
Is it easier to hire a basketball coach at Kentucky or a football coach at Kentucky?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As far as this season is shaking out, I saw Joe Milton had a good scrimmage the other day. What are those two guys looking like? Because all we've heard is how supportive Milton has been, considering he's the backup right now and lost his job, and Hendon Hooker's kind of taking a different leadership role, and that's going to be huge, because no matter the level, quarterback play at high school, college, and NFL matters the most.
Well, Eric mentioned it on our show yesterday, and Moan, this goes back to when you guys were playing. 2006, Eric hurts his ankle, and John Crompton wasn't ready to play as the backup, and because of that, you lost games against LSU and Arkansas, two teams that Tennessee was better than.
Yep.
And next year, Tennessee hammered Arkansas, and it was a close game with LSU regardless. But this program right now cannot afford to just have two games where you just don't have a chance because your quarterback got hurt. If Hendon Hooker sprains his ankle, they can run the same game plan with Joe Milton, and they can expect to have similar results with Joe Milton based on his development over the last year. Last year his problems were overthrows. You can still go run the same game plan with him in there with some of the short passing stuff that Hendon Hooker does, some of the movement from the quarterback position. You can go in and you don't have to sacrifice games if Hendon Hooker goes out for a game or two. Because, if you look around college football, the reality is you are probably going to need your backup quarterback to play at least part of a game this year. That's just how college football works in the modern age. So if Joe Milton's there and there's not a lot of drop-off, there's some drop-off, but the most important thing is the whole playbook's still available to Alex Golesh, then I think that's huge. He has taken steps forward. He has been very impressive in practice. People that have observed practice that I've talked to, the closed-door portion of practice, feel like Joe Milton has had as good of a camp as he did last year, and his camp last year was good enough to win the starting job. So if you have somebody who is that good and is bought in to being the backup and to being there when that helmet pops off for a play or that ankle gets turned, that's huge, because how many backup quarterbacks in college football are truly bought in to being the backup? How many are truly preparing every week like they're the starter so they can jump in? I think Tennessee has that, and that's an incredibly valuable piece in what's going to be a very important season for Tennessee.
So Pittsburgh is ranked in both polls, which actually caught me a little bit off guard. I missed that Keaton Slovis was there. That game's obviously important, not just because you want to get back at him for last year, but also it's just one of those where you want the momentum going into Florida. You want to be undefeated before Florida comes to you for the biggest game that you've played in that building in a long time. How dangerous do you think that Pittsburgh team is?
I think it's dangerous because they have the confidence of having beaten Tennessee last year and having, as you mentioned, Keaton Slovis coming in. Internally, they can sell it as, yeah, we lost Kenny Pickett, but we got somebody else who's just as talented. I don't know if that's true,
right?
But that's how they're selling it internally. It's a tremendously important game, as you said, for Tennessee because of what it sets up. Momentum is going to be so key. And if you win that game, it validates so much of the offseason, both from an internal football team standpoint, but also externally with everything that people have talked about with this program all offseason. So it's a dangerous game from the fact that I think there are a lot of people here in Knoxville, a lot of our listeners are just marking the Pitt game down as a win because it should have been a win last year. Well, I don't think you can do that because that's a really good football team. The top 25 rankings, no fluke. Now, they could go out to lose in West Virginia in week one, and then they're an 0-1 football team that's maybe even more dangerous because the early season for Pitt coming off an ACC championship is tremendously important. If you beat West Virginia and you beat Tennessee, Pittsburgh's saying, we're going to roll to this ACC title game again. If you lose to West Virginia and lose to Tennessee or you split those games, then you have questions. Similarly for Tennessee, if you beat Pitt, you're 2-0, beat Akron 3-0, then it doesn't matter what Florida's done. I think a lot of people are looking at Florida's schedule and going, well, hey, Florida could come into Tennessee at 1-2. They have Utah and they have Kentucky. They could come in 2-1. But what if they come in 3-0? What if they've eliminated the Pac-12 from the college football playoff in week one, and then they've turned around and beaten Kentucky in week 3, and they roll into Neyland Stadium with every piece of momentum? You want to be 3-0 for that matchup. You don't want to be 2-1 with some question marks because you went and laid an egg at Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Roman Harper, a little bit of a preseason troll. Consider he's an Alabama guy. Or you think he really believes 10-2?
I think there are a lot of people that believe that Tennessee can be that good. Will they ultimately? I think there's probably a producer in his ear saying, hey, you want to make some headlines? Go ahead. Say they're going to do it. Because, you can run the numbers. Our buddy Tyler Wyatt runs a lot of numbers for us on the show, and he only has Tennessee an underdog in two games right now. I think it would be more likely that you would beat LSU and lose to Georgia and Alabama, but somebody's got to take a swing at those two teams. And Tennessee, I think, has the offense to take a swing at Alabama. They have the offense to take a swing at Georgia, particularly if Georgia has some defensive issues with all they've replaced. I don't think they will, because I think they're very, very talented on the defensive line. But, hey, Tennessee has the offense to take a shot. I don't know that Roman Harper believes that Tennessee can win that game. I don't know that he actually believes Tennessee can go 10-2, but you can certainly see the path to it.
Good stuff, B. Rice. We appreciate you, man. I know we'll catch up with you again before the season starts.
Gentlemen, it is Peyton Manning days until football time in Tennessee, and I can't wait.
I love it, B. Rice. I didn't expect that.
Peyton Manning days.
16, baby.
Remember he did the thing with the jersey numbers a few years ago on Twitter.
He's still doing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
615-737-1045 is the telephone number. 737-1045. If you have any problems with the top 25, I'm kind of with B. Rice. If you're not ranked, whatever, because you're going to be ranked pretty quick. Unless you don't deserve to be.
Unless you don't deserve to be.
Unless you prove otherwise, because you're right outside. And obviously, I think a lot of people are very high on Tennessee. I don't think you're starting on first base this year. I think you're probably starting on second. I wouldn't go as far to say you're starting on third, John Calipari.
Cal.
But you're probably starting on second base. We'll be back. It's Jay Martin on 104.5 The Zone.
As leaders in disaster cleanup and restoration, the pros at Servpro are prepared for anything. Like when a relief valve on your water heater fails, pouring gallons of water into your finished basement. Servpro is prepared for it. Or when an electrical shortage in your office causes extensive smoke and water damage, Servpro is prepared for that. Or a musty odor indicates you might have a mold problem. Servpro is prepared for that too. You need a lot more than help sometimes cleaning up, and that's why Servpro is your one-stop shop when disaster strikes. Not only do they have the equipment and expertise to clean up damage from fire, water, or mold, but they also offer a variety of construction services ranging from drywall patching and document drying all the way to complete structure rebuilds. There's just one call you need to make to bring your home or business back as good as new and as soon as possible. So if you're in need of cleanup from fire, water, or any unpleasant event, Servpro is always ready to help. Call Servpro and the official downtown Nashville operators at 800-SERVPRO to see how we can help you get back to like it never even happened. The number is 800-SERVPRO. Servpro, cleaning, restoration, construction. Franchise that independently owned and operated.
104.5 The Zone's 2022 Summer Golf Classic presented by Ferguson HVAC is coming up Monday, August 29th at Greystone Golf Club. It's almost sold out. Purchase your team now at 1045thezone.com and enjoy a day teeing off with us thanks to Ferguson HVAC, 4 Point Business Services, RTM Roofing, and Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. It's Jay Martin and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Defense dominated yesterday's practice. Caleb Farley had a good day. Malik Willis did not.
No.
7 of 22 passing, 2 picks, nearly 3, if you're looking at the stats. Definitely a defensive day. It wasn't even a great day for Tannehill. He had a couple of miscommunications with Reising out there. And then there's Traylon Burks, who we'll talk to Buck about.
Yeah.
Vrabel pretty much told Wyatt, he's got to be more consistent and carry over what he's doing in practice to the games.
Mm-hmm.
Not real happy with the performance Thursday. Said he needs a good week this week in practice, Vrabel said.
That's kind of confusing. I didn't think that was in his control.
Well, I mean, the one play certainly wasn't. Malik just missed him.
Yeah. And, of course, the way they see film is way different than the way we see it, Jay. So I guess you can't really complain about that. And when a coach says that, okay, keep your foot on them just so they can challenge themselves, I didn't think he had a bad game. I just thought balls didn't come his way as far as opportunities to make those plays.
It's very obvious that Vrabel is saying things he wants these guys to hear.
Yeah.
He said just being able to take the progress, some of the improvements we saw in practice and carry them over into the game. I don't think that happened enough.
Wow.
Then he said, look, he wanted to be a part of special teams. I think there were some really positive things on our kickoff and special teams units we can build off. Traylon will have to come out here and have a good week, meaning for the practice. Remember what he said about Malik? Took him out because he wasn't making throws.
Yeah, he did.
Wasn't throwing the football. So that's 2 guys, 2 rookies.
That are forced.
Then he's come out there and stepped out and said,
turn it on. Yeah, 100%, man. I'll say this. Malik having a bad day is probably a good thing in practice. Because if that means he's standing in the pocket and throwing it, then he's answering the call of what Coach asked him to do. It sucks to break down and build back up again when it comes down to, football and aspect of things because you want to stack good days. That's what coaches always tell you. Stack a good day, then get another good day. And the fact that, he's having a little bit of a reset or a pushback, it feels bad for him, but in the end, if that's what it takes to be a better pro, I think it's necessary. Vrabel's always going to challenge guys. We hear that often.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and that's a good point. I mean, he threw 22 balls yesterday. I don't know in the context. Wyatt, yesterday's the first day he charted every one of his throws, he said, and that's where he said 7 of 22, not his best day. Yeah. But if he's actually trying some stuff, then that's part of the development process, and that's why he's going to. This season is not going to be about what you see on the field. It's going to be about everything he's doing during the week to hopefully put him in position to maybe be there next year or certainly 2 years from now. 615-737-1045 is the telephone number. Buck Reising will pop in, join us in about 25 minutes. Let us know what he is seeing. And Burks, of course, in specifics. The inconsistencies there and what that actually means, if there's anything to really be concerned about. We'll look at more of the headlines going on around the league as well. Third hour's next. Jay Martin and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Mortgage interest rates, as you know, are a little up right now, but my friends at the Home Loan Expert need to get you locked in, and this is why. Their rate is over a quarter point lower than the national average. Yes, that is correct. It's over a quarter point lower than the national average, so I can save you a little coin. It can pay off the house a little bit sooner than you need to or than you think you should. So if you've been sitting on a fence to get a refi, if you haven't gotten your pre-approved home loan locked in, let me tell you, now is the time. Because by refinancing your 30-year mortgage with the Home Loan Expert, you can still save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month with a simple refi. I promise you, money in the pocket is a whole lot better. So if you're thinking about a cash-out refi, now is the time. You can pay off that credit card debt, make home remodeling projects a reality. Stick some cash in your pocket and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Their clients receive on average about $54,000 with a simple cash out refi at closing. So if you're struggling with bills and debt, the cash out refi is perfect for you. Your home is your biggest asset. And with the home equity so high right now, it's the perfect time to do a cash out. By not owning those credit card companies with those high interest rates, you are putting, again, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars back into your home pocket. At thehomeloanexpert.com, they can lock in your interest rate, project your payments, and get you pre-qualified. So when you find that right home, you can submit that offer and close on it. Listen to me, 10-day closing guarantee, only available at thehomeloanexpert.com.
8:01, good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. William Contreras and Eddie Rosario hit back-to-back home runs in the second inning. Ronald Acuna Jr. doubled 3 times, drove in 3 runs. The Braves swatted the Mets 13-1 yesterday for their 7th straight win.
Swung on, hit deep to left. That might do it. Back goes Canna. We got a winner. Home run, d'Arnaud.
That made it 13-1 right there. The Braves moved within 4.5 games of New York for the NL East lead. Game 2 of the 4-game series tonight at Truist Park. First pitch set for 6:20. Dodgers ace and former Vandy star Walker Buehler will have season-ending elbow surgery. To college football, Alabama #1 in the AP preseason college football poll for the 2nd straight season. 9th time overall that has occurred. Ohio State is #2, defending champion Georgia. #3, Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5. Meanwhile, Tennessee received the most votes of others receiving votes. 4-star cornerback Jordan Matthews commits to Tennessee and their 2023 class. Miles Brennan, who was LSU starting quarterback early in the 2020 season but missed most of the past 2 seasons with injuries, is stepping away from college football. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your Over the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Hour 3, J. Mart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Lifted up by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Buck Reising follows us. He will also follow us into the next segment. He will join us, talk some Titans, obviously. As we're getting closer and closer to the NFL season, we are Peyton Manning days away, as Brian Rice said, from college football. I don't think I took Pittsburgh quite a. They're well coached. Narduzzi knows what he's doing. They're usually a defensive team. When I found out Slovis was there, Slovis was a dude in his freshman year at USC, had 30 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, 3,700 yards as a freshman. He came out of nowhere. Since then, it hadn't gone as great, but it hadn't gone great for anybody at USC.
No, it has
Since
not.
then, with the Clay Helton era and just being it's like playing for Pruitt.
At
some point, even though Clay Helton was the opposite of Pruitt as a guy.
Yeah, no, that's a whole lot better. But Narduzzi has been doing a whole lot for that Pitt Panther team. They've consistently put guys in the league. They competed well. I went to some of their games. I mean, they pushed Penn State a few times. Like, they have been that type. They're the little brother type of school, but if you take them, lightly, or they find the right quarterback like Kenny Pickett last year, or Slovis this year, Jay, anything can happen with that team, because the one thing that they do is the Vols play them the second game of the season is they have defense. They put defenders in the league at a high rate. We're watching a young guy right now. I guarantee you didn't know much about Rashad Weaver before he got drafted.
No, not as much, no.
But when you see him, you're like, yeah, that kid is a player. And that's what they do, man. They do a good job of developing. So this isn't a walkover game for Tennessee when they play them the second weekend of the season. I think it's a Saturday 12 o'clock game. This is going to be an interesting matchup, and a lot can be taken from it, too.
Brian Dable was talking about the Giants' offense. And said, yeah, we struggled. That's why we practice. As we get better. The problem is you got a quarterback that has struggled for a while. That if he was going to be something, eventually you just kind of are who you think you are.
Yeah.
You just are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
Dable's a really, really good coach in terms of an offensive mind. We already know this from what he did in Buffalo and how he helped Josh Allen's development. They ain't got Stephon Diggs in New York.
I don't even know what they have, but I heard I was told
probably Shepard and
their cap space though for the receivers that they're paying is like they have like 3 number ones for the most part, Jay. That's tough, man. And it seemed like all reports coming out of New York is, as far as Dable and his quarterback is concerned, they are like all in on him.
I mean, look, good, because that's who you got and you want to stand behind him. No way he's there next year. In my opinion. Like,
Daniel
look,
Jones.
not rooting against him, but I just don't. But I haven't bought in since the beginning. I don't buy in now.
Well,
I think Dable is a good coach, and I think next year they're going to go find themselves a quarterback. I don't know who it's going to be.
yeah.
They're going to get their Ryan Tannehill to replace their Marcus.
It's just like a new GM. He's going to get his coach. Eventually, when you got a young enough quarterback like Daniel Jones, you're going to go find your guy.
Yeah, and maybe Dable's going to give Daniel Jones the opportunity to be his guy. He's going to be like, all right, let's see if you can run what I need you to run. Do what you can. If not,
Beat it.
screen door.
And he's got a big time opportunity this year. But as far as the NFC East goes, that's Dallas or Washington, right? No, Dallas or Philly.
Probably.
Like, it's not going to be an easy ride for them to actually prove that Danny Dimes is the guy, unless Daboll is just wheeling and dealing and he Arthur Smith this thing. That's the only thing I can see it as far as the success coming from the Giants this year. Saquon is back. They showed them catching passes and whatnot. It's some. What is the O-line going to do, and what decisions will your quarterback make when you can't tell him where to throw the ball?
It's a problem.
It is.
It's a huge, huge problem. We've already talked about Trey Lance a little bit. We talked about Trevor yesterday. We talked a little bit about Zach. Zach is the kind of guy that he's perfect for the Jets because that interception and then getting hurt is so Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so like all they did was hype him all off season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he looks the part. And then he looked exactly like he looked last year with that interception throw.
Yeah.
And he seems like a guy that can't get out of his own way on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Not really off it. Like, he's not necessarily doing anything to harm you there. But I was looking at Zach Wilson's mom.
Is that the music? Was that American Pie?
Where it's at was in the background underneath that.
Yeah.
Was that American Pie?
I was looking at Zach Wilson's mom. She'll go after you on social media.
Is that you? Is that real?
That was me.
Oh,
Yeah.
It wasn't
You saw-
live.
that wasn't live.
Oh, that was live coming back from a break.
It was, yeah, I was reading about her when she went off on people on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the story, but when you just clip the one part.
I was looking at Zach Wilson's mom.
Way funny.
It's way better shave. I can't believe you got caught lacking like that. I was looking at Zach Wilson's mom.
That's not what he was saying.
I know. There's more to
how this
it.
works.
But I'm going to be a degenerate behind it. You know that.
Dan Campbell about joint practice tomorrow, of course. Titans, Bucks. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be real
Dan
fun.
Campbell said that players learned to fight back in the day during those practices. He said 2 lessons, this is according to Pro Football Talk, 2 lessons hammered home for him were you always get involved in scuffles and you always keep your head on a swivel for the next one.
Yeah.
And then he said, we're not out there to fight. I don't want to continue what was there when I was playing. I don't want it as a coach. We did it as a player. I don't want it as a coach.
Doesn't matter if you have 1 ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
So that's great, by the way. In general, it's the same thing as, you know how you acted in high school?
Yeah.
Or you acted in middle school and all this. Now you're a parent and you're like, I did some stupid stuff. I don't want you doing it though.
Be
These
better.
nuts.
I don't know why I don't know how I'm still alive based on some of the decisions that I made when I was 15 and 16.
Me either, man. We all tell our kids that, and now he's a head coach and he's got to run an efficient practice and try to win games. Now he see why the coach kicked him out of practices.
These nuts.
He would go on to play for Bill Parcells. Parcells always threatened to cut any player who fought in a joint practice.
Yeah, I can
Anybody.
see that.
Guess who their joint practices are this week
Who?
for the Lions? Colts.
These nuts.
Oh, wait. The Colts will probably bend the knee, though. They probably won't fight in practice. It's always one team. It's always one team that says, no, it's not going to be us. And you feel like a chump, too. Like, we've never been on this side, but I've seen other teams act like chumps. When it's like the coaches say no fighting, and you see them, like, take, like, you know how a dog tucks his head and just walks away. Like, That's what it's looked like. But the respect factor is there. I know a lot of those guys is like, man, not me.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not taking the high road on this one.
I know we did this last year. Who's the most likely fighter during these Bucs practices?
Jeff.
That would probably be my
This
guess.
is numero uno. I mean, or anybody going up against Jeff. Like you heard what they said after Pittsburgh played him. Like it's Jeff, and there's no other way around it. Or anybody facing him, as I say that again. Tier.
Yeah, I was about to say, who's the backup though? All right, so we'll give Jeff's number one with the bullet.
Easy bullet. Too.
Yeah.
Tier. I can see. I got Danico's too much of an over guy to be fighting right now.
But like you think about the DBs are all pretty measured guys.
Yeah,
like,
they
you don't
are.
really expect Caleb Farley to get.
I can see Christian Fulton. I can see Caleb.
Yes.
No, I give it to Caleb, just simply because he's probably gonna try to bully somebody as he should, and because of that, it'll be a wide receiver getting mad at him. I can see Caleb starting something because go back to this draft now. He's an intense guy. Listen to his interview. He's an intense guy. I could see him being that dude.
Taylor from 4 years ago would be your obvious
he
number
was
one.
definitely that guy.
Taylor in 2022, I don't know.
I could still see Taylor starting something.
He's certainly going to talk.
I can see him starting something. And that ain't a bad thing either. It's just that, how is it going to end? Like, Taylor has started and walk away. That's kind of what
Jones
I'm saying.
is left there.
Ben is
to
just
fight the battle.
He's the last dude on the team that's fighting. Between Ben and Derek, this is the last dudes on the team fighting.
Derek might even be on the field, man.
Would you put him out there?
Just be out there in a bubble.
Would you put him out there this week? I don't think I would.
Hold that.
That's probably one of my most favorite drops right there.
And of course, a lot of the fighting is just part of it. A lot of it's just some people show up ready for it too.
No, listen.
You remember the old we've done this before off air, but the Kings of Comedy deal. Somebody's out there without a stick.
I wish.
Hockey just
no. But going into it though, Jay, you gotta prep yourself for it. Because I don't care about those dudes over there while we're practicing.
Who's the knucklehead though?
The knucklehead?
No, I'm saying to that point, but you have to think, who's the knucklehead over there that I gotta watch out for?
Vita Vea.
That was the name that came to my head.
I'd also say
Fournette's kind of dumb. Sometimes it gets a little emotional on the field.
Just to get you going would be Fournette. Devin White, I can see popping a running back a little bit too hard. I've seen Ross Cockrell fight before in practices, but he's super chill as a DB.
Winfield might run his mouth.
Oh, my God. Winfield, yes, 100%. I could see him. Offensively, Tom's not there. The receivers are too savvy to be doing that right now.
I don't think Kyle Trask is going to be fighting anybody.
No, I'd love to see it, though. Just beeline somebody in the face with a ball. Vita Vea
You mean like
is
Pam
my
Oliver?
culprit. Yeah.
Oh.
Tots and pears, baby.
Have you seen that video?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So
She
sad.
took one. Golly, that was tough.
In the mush.
Yeah.
Trask could hit Buck in the face with a football. That'd be a crowd pleaser.
I mean,
I'm all right with that.
Buck might actually go out there and fight at that point.
Buck wouldn't fight anybody ever. Are you kidding me?
Buck's been working out, man. He's 100% fighting somebody.
I'm sorry, I might get my shoes dirty.
Workouts must not be going that well because I haven't seen any videos recently.
He's still at it as far as I
know he is. He works out hard.
Oh, Lucas, go out into this fight and fight for me.
The only reason I don't know why you turned into like a member of Cobra from G.I. Joe in 1985 right there for Buck Reising.
Yeah, but listen to his voice. I mean, it's not that far off.
It's just, I don't know what that voice is. What's wrong with you, Shay?
Try that again, Shave.
It's Lucas, go fight this fight for me.
Buck Rising's next. Jay Martin, Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Yeah, so foundation issues with your home can be real pesky, and they can be the kinds of things that you just don't really – it's like you see it and you don't want to see it, right? Because A lot of times that means some kind of cost, some kind of big job. It's the last thing that you really even want to think about. But the problem is, and you probably know this inside, those aren't things that just go away. Those are things that only continue to get worse. And whether or not it's cracks in your bricks that you're noticing or some kind of a bowing wall somewhere, soil that's cracking and drying, it's leaving holes between your foundation and your home, and you're not really sure exactly what's going on. Your steps, you just know they're not level anymore. You got doors and windows. You can't close the door all the way, and it's not an issue with the door jamb. All of those things, they're foundation issues, or they at least require a foundation inspection. So you got to have somebody you can trust. It's not going to come out and say, yeah, everything is screwed up. This is going to cost you about let's say $650,000 to be safe. Like, no, that's not how that works. You got to get somebody that's going to tell you exactly what's going on, that has the expertise to fix it, and cares to get the job done when it deserves to be done. And that's United Structural Systems here in Middle Tennessee for over a quarter of a century. Impeccable integrity and reputation. A+ with a Better Business Bureau for a reason. They're locally owned. They're right in our backyard. They are problem solvers. They want to take the stress out of home repair with no down payments. They come out, give you a free estimate, tell you exactly what is going on and what it's going to entail. Sometimes it's a much smaller job than you think. Sometimes it's not a job at all, at least for the time being. Hey, we'll keep an eye on this, but we don't really necessarily have to do anything right now about this situation. That's worth its weight in gold, literally and figuratively. They want your business when it's right, and then they're going to earn your respect. United Structural Systems, 615-227-2275. Join the over 23,000 satisfied customers and counting. Again, 227-2275 or online at ussTN.com. United Structural Systems.
sorry ass.
J. Martin and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Somebody in the chat asked, what was said about Big Jeff after the Steelers game? We talked about it on air a couple of different times. But before we talked about it on air, you hit us up that day. This is first year of this show, and it was the first game they played against him. And they sent him a message after the game. They were like, man, 98 is a problem. His 98 will not stop talking.
That's all they kept saying is he was a problem. 98, 98, 98. That's all that was said about Jeff was like, look, he wouldn't stop talking. And it was from a respectful side of it, but it was just like, dog, he doesn't stop. And that's what you want from your defensive line. You want them to be agitators. You want them to be dudes that get on your nerves and never take a play off. That's what Jeff was to those guys the last time they played. So that's what they said about him was 98, 98, 98. That's all I kept hearing after the game. A lot of respect. And that was a veteran offensive line, too, at the time that was, saying this dude was going to be good. And he's turned it on. Turned it on.
No question about that. Buck Reising's on the line. He follows us, host of the Buck Reising Show, of course. He'll be live at training camp today. Buck, what's going on?
Not at training camp today. I'm coming to see you boys. I'm coming back to work.
Hey, about time you hit
no
the clock.
media today. That's right.
Yeah, so I'll slide back in our place of employment for like a day and a half and then right back to it.
And well, that's fine. So I know you talked about this on your program. We were kind of remarking about how Vrabel's come out in a couple of different conversations, and basically he hasn't called out two of the rookies, but he's basically said things he clearly wants them to hear about Malik and why he was taken out, and then about Traylon's inconsistencies. What are you hearing now about Traylon and where we are here?
So they were disappointed by basically, just what Mike said. There was not a carryover from the days that he had stacked in training camp and had done well to be available through training camp. He had not really translated that kind of effort, finish, play speed in the game action that they had in Baltimore. Now, statistically, he could have been done better by the quarterback situation. I think we're having we at least outwardly are having a different conversation about Traylon Burks. If Logan Woodside puts a little bit more air under that deep ball that he could have made a play on in the end zone. But for the coaching staff, it's about the technique for both of them. It's about how they want them to play the wide receiver position, how they want them to win off the line of scrimmage, and how they want them to make sure that they're sound in their run blocking techniques. He brought that up with Dez on Saturday when we were, I think Tehran asked him about, and is there any difference, is anything tangible in like an increased sense of urgency from Dez year over year? And Mike kind of took the question in a different direction and was like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with his urgency. He just needs to be better to make sure that he's covering up a guy and finishing the block when we try to break one of these runs. And that's the kind of criticism, constructive criticism, that Vrabel is doing outwardly and also internally. He doesn't say anything to us that he's not saying to them.
As far as that goes with Traylon, though, so you're saying it's more technique and not necessarily the production, because I've always kind of said wide receivers become divas because they rely on somebody else to give them the ball. We've heard Keyshawn kind of say he had some trash quarterbacks when he got to the Jets, and that ruined, the start of his career a little bit.
Sure.
For Traylon, I didn't think there was much to be had other than lack of catches, but that was on QBs, in my opinion, Buck.
I don't disagree with that. I think that you're not gonna, and certainly the rookies, and it's just kind of the way that they do things, and everybody's different. Ramon, I don't know how things were with your guys internally, but for them, it's always going to be, okay, well, this was fine, but it wasn't good enough, and that's just the basic job of a coach. Like, it seems like a miserable profession because no matter how good it is, you have to consistently ask more and demand more once you see that the first thing has been accomplished. It's why none of them look happy ever at any given point in time throughout the course of a football season. But I think for Traylon, it's not like, I'm not freaking out. I just think that it needs work, and that somebody like Kyle Phillips is an example of what doesn't need work, because that guy's got a job already.
Yes, he does, man. Speaking of jobs, this trio of offensive linemen that are, vying for jobs, I gave what I thought should be the starting OL, but as far as NPF and Aaron Brewer and Dylan Radins go, how do you kind of see this shaking out, man? Does Aaron Brewer still have a lock on it, and what's to be the concern as far as the right tackle position go from what you've seen?
Dog, we talked to Keith Carter, their offensive line coach, yesterday. Brewer's not going anywhere. They love that guy.
Wow.
That guy's here to stay. And listen, I mean, he does everything, and he knows all the things that they ask him to know, and he understands multiple positions, and whatever you think of him is what he was behind Ben Jones last year as a backup center. I think there is there are some concerns, but if Ben is out, you're going to be concerned no matter who's back there.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Brewer, they are going to give him every opportunity, and he's taking advantage of it in what they're asking him to execute right now. Now, will those kind of, I don't want to, defects is not a fair term, but will those weaknesses that we all clearly and obviously understand, will they manifest in a game at some point? Sure. But if the rest of it is net positive, they're not going to discount the dude just because he's a little lighter in the, well, I can't say that word on morning radio, but a little lighter in the butt than most of his counterparts. And then Radins, I think he ends up starting the season if we stay on this trajectory, and as they kind of work with Petit Frere on technique stuff, hand placement, the kind of punch that he needs to get on his initial punch when he's pass blocking defensive lineman and things of that nature. I thought the run blocking was sound. Ramon, you'd be a better
I did
of that than I.
Yep.
But I thought that, I think that Radins is going to be the starter, and if Petit Frere ended up taking the job at some point because he gets technically more sound throughout the course of the season, like Logan Woodside, I think, or rather like Malik Willis, I think that both of those situations can continue to be fluid even once we kind of get to week one.
Buck, so Malik didn't have a good day yesterday. I saw Wyatt in a 7 of 22 or whatever like that. Mo made an interesting point about that I hadn't thought about, which was, does that mean he's throwing the ball more? Like, is that part of the progression? It's like, maybe that's a good thing. Obviously, you don't want to get picked off twice and almost 3 times and all that, but if he's actually standing in the pocket and trying to make things happen and learning from, pulling and running on Thursday night, then maybe that's okay.
Yeah, that's why you don't box score scout in any aspect of life, because the reason, and listen, he's looked rough. Like, I haven't seen him have an outright great practice in, I think we're through 13 of these right now. And okay, like, whatever. I know what my expectation is for Malik Willis every day when I walk out there, because I've seen him every day at this point. But yeah, they were asking him to throw the ball more yesterday, and that causes him to have a few more hiccups, kind of hold it a little longer than he might otherwise be doing. They're trying to break habits. If you watched any of Liberty, even after they drafted him, just to kind of go through some of those games, there's no way in hell that a guy like Malik Willis was ever going to learn how to win from the pocket, because he had one of the worst offensive lines in college football last year. So now when you're asking him to stand in there, it's working against his natural inclination to be like, okay, I can make a play here. Like, there's a play to be made here individually. Let me just do it and keep this thing moving, rather than taking the completions and kind of hanging in there and keeping his eyes up for a second longer.
Same thing with Bullock. Bullock had a bad day yesterday. He missed some field goals. Does any of this matter? Like, do you care that Bullock had a bad day, for instance, or that, Stonehouse and Kern, obviously that's not something we were expecting to talk about. We're talking about it a little bit more. Like, how close are you paying attention to individual performances day by day?
Oh, very. I mean, there's almost a month more of this stuff. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to only way that I'm going to be able to draw this out is to go individual and kind of build a profile on these guys, even as they might not be here past 3 p.m. today, for example, with the first roster cuts coming down. But do you know why Randy Bullock had a bad day yesterday?
Why?
Because Ryan Stonehouse was the holder.
Yeah. That matters.
That matters in a big way, because Brett Kern and Randy Bullock work fine together. Randy missed as many kicks yesterday as he had to that point in camp. Once they changed it, it's not something that, Ryan Stonehouse can't learn how to do, but with as shaky of ground as the Titans kicking situation has been on, if the difference between the guy that can average net 60 yards or whatever it is on his punts, or the guy who's maybe a little more expensive, a little longer in the tooth, doesn't have quite that leg, still gets the directional punting, and doesn't screw up your field goal unit, then you might say, okay, we can ride this out for another year and stash the guy on the practice squad and make him one of your 4 protected if you really, really care that much.
Yeah, Buck, one group we hadn't talked a whole lot about, and I think it's because the excitement of the front end of the defense as far as the defensive line and the secondary kind of coming together. But this linebacker group, Zach Cunningham and gang, what do you see this looking like for them with David Long Jr., Monty Rice getting into the fold, and just everybody around? And I saw, Chance Campbell have a good day, I think, yesterday. But the starters specifically, Buck, what is that group going to look like with the addition of a full offseason of Zach Cunningham?
I mean, they gotta win enough with Cunningham and Long on early downs, to not put them in bad situations. This is a stat from my buddy James Foster at the A to Z Sports film room. Do you know how many third down passing situation snaps that Zach Cunningham played last year? Anybody tell me?
About 40%.
One.
What?
One. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't deviate from what works for them and what does not work for them.
Oh, wow.
Is that Cunningham in coverage. So, like, when you're looking for the defense, because I'm not down on the inside linebackers at all, but, like, they both have a role to play, and they're functional within – I mean, they're more than functional. I think David Long came on in a big way, to his credit. I think Cunningham fits what works here. It's what Rashawn was supposed to be, just a little less out of place on from down to down. But I think that when you look at kind of what they offer, they are a good pairing and they work well, but they also do have their limitations in what they can do. David Long's is simply just a size thing with these just pterodactyls of tight ends that are going to be running across the middle and that he's going to be having to defend. And with Zach Cunningham, you can't put him in coverage.
So is the middle of the field a bit of a red flag for you in that intermediate range, Buck?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely they combat it with a lot of 3 safety looks because you can play a guy down in the box that way. I mean, Cruikshank was more just like okay, there's a tight end there, go match up on him and make a play because you're long and you can do that in single coverage that way. But the way that they use Amani Hooker and if Theo Jackson can have any kind of a role in that safety look, or rather how many different defensive backs that they just generally have to use, whether it's Elijah Molden in a certain circumstance or how Roger McCreary is going to play. We just don't know exactly where right now. But these guys are all going to have a role kind of in making up for that. And the Titans, I mean, the pass rush makes everything easier, but the way that they disguise their pressures as well with kind of these zones. I mean, they did it in Pittsburgh forever, zone exchange pressures where you're dropping a guy like Bud or Harold into coverage and you're sending David Long as the 4th rusher or Elijah Molden as the slot corner and kind of keeping those numbers on your side, but making the quarterback have to think about something just moved at the time that I snapped the football. What just happened and why is it changing what I'm saying?
But I know Derek is the guy. He's the man that everybody's saying, hey, let's roll for him, man. But the guy that really is most important to me is Ryan Tannehill. And I asked you this, man. Have you seen anything that suggests that, he's put everything behind him? He's going to take that step. This offense can rely on his arm, shoulder, elbow, legs this year, Buck.
I mean, he's not throwing the picks in training camp, which matters. Like, it's not insignificant, even if it is training camp, like to throw interceptions versus not throwing interceptions in training camp. You'd certainly take the latter, and his decision-making has been sound. He's been taking care of the football. Now, how that translates to game situations more than it did in any other season, I could not possibly tell you. But I'd also tell you that I've never doubted that he is good enough to get them to a point. It's, okay, can you avoid the single, the anomaly on the timeline where it's hell, he was the most reliable thing that they had all of last year, even if the production suffered. Like Ryan Tannehill, to his credit, getting traded here from Miami, where questions were significant about the durability and sustainability. This dude doesn't miss starts here, and he did not last year when they needed just some kind of stabilizing force. So I've never been like, I've never been distrustful of Ryan. It's just like, oh my God, is that 3 interception game going to come at the worst possible time? And last year it happened to be. So, whatever he does this year, I'm not worried about him. I think it's far more likely that he earns a contract extension, honestly.
Do you see anything different from him this year? One of the things that Mona and I and Shafe have discussed as a show is just Tim Kelly and what he might mean in terms of what he can do from a passing game and passing coordinating perspective. What, if anything, are you hearing and or seeing that makes you think this is a little bit different for Tannehill in terms of how he's dialed in?
It's not so far as to go down like the passing game coordinator stuff, because they won't let us talk to Tim Kelly.
Sure.
At this point, I'd love to talk to Tim Kelly, and we can't. We don't really get a lot of clarity about, okay, what's the workload distribution between you and Todd, and what actually goes into the process of calling the plays here. Just that he works with the tight ends a lot. But anyway, I think for Tannehill, one thing that I have noticed him emphasizing more, and I don't remember this being a part, maybe it's a small thing, but every time we talk about him and the wide receivers and gaining connection, it's all about this guy's going to go out there and make a play for me. This guy's shown that he can go out there and make a play for me. It's just like the way it's just the way that he's talking about it making it so specific, I guess, to making a play for the quarterback and the significance of that. I don't know if that's just something that you repeat. That's not anything different than what the quarterback would want anyway. But the external emphasis on that is just something that's kind of, made me look up or think about something in a press conference where a lot of times those things just kind of drone on.
Yeah, so I don't want to drop the ball on what you said, because you mentioned something there right at the tail end of that last answer that I wanted to follow up on real quick before we let you go, and that is Tannehill and a contract extension. Mm-hmm. Just your rationale behind that, because that would tell me if you're doing that, then Malik is 2 years away. Is that what you're suggesting in that case?
I think we'll learn a lot, but I just think, if you're playing percentages, right? What is the percentage chance that Ryan Tannehill rebounds and puts together a successful NFL quarterbacking season? I would say it is a high percentage chance that that's going to happen. They were shopping around because they felt the option last year was insufficient. It's why you even bother to ask about Deshaun Watson, even as we all might have, ethical or moral concerns about the premise of that. It's why, even as the Aaron Rodgers thing spiraled out of control, you just continue to try and upgrade your position. And if there's nothing out there that seems enticing, and the guy that you have is putting together another above-average competency season, is that the thing that's going to give you the best opportunity to win? I don't know that Malik will be that right away. I don't know that he'll be that 6 weeks in. I don't know that he'll be that a year in. I don't know. Third-round quarterbacks just generally don't hit the way that people, I think, expect that they do, much less a guy that is this kind of raw. But that's cool. They've got the time with him. It's a super cost-controlled contract, and honestly, if they can kind of make things work around Ryan as the money starts to get crazy on the other side of the ball, Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, somebody who they've been in contract discussions with leading up to the season. I think it's a totally realistic thing. Teams don't let go of above-average quarterback play that often. Kirk Cousins continues to get the bag because he is just slightly of above-average quarterback play.
Speaking of which, guys seeking the bag, Derek has some traction behind that around June, July. What's the results of that right now?
On Derek?
Yeah, Derek getting a raise or a new contract.
I don't think it's anything that's pressing.
Okay.
It just seems at this point that a particular negotiating party decided that they might like to see if there was the potential for some leverage in their favor, where there is a situation where there really is none for a client, let's say. And so you get that out there, and it starts to become a part of the discussion, and then you have people here locally screaming it from their rooftops, you better pay that man because we love him no matter what, like, the feasibility of something like that is. So, yeah, I mean, it's Derek could go on to have a 3 or 4 more years here if he ages differently than most running backs. But I mean, that's the question that we're all kind of waiting to see on, and they'll make a decision before the end of the year, but they'll know pretty early whether Derek is worth keeping on for more guaranteed money than they've already got on the books.
Who's on your program today, Buck?
We have Joel Corey. Speaking of contracts, we're going to talk about Jeff and Lamar Jackson and what the viability of a situation like that is for Baltimore. And I'm gonna go to bat for your Vols, Ramon.
Hey.
We got Chris Childers at 12:20 because I was very disappointed to see Wake Forest without their starting quarterback in, and Tennessee outside looking in at 26 with just enough votes. That I didn't like that. I think I'm going to bandwagon them.
You know how to reach my soul, Buck, man. I thank you.
It's good stuff, man. Clawson's still dominating the Vols after all this time.
It's true. Listen, that's been a more successful football program as of late. Sorry about it.
All right, Buck. We'll catch up with you a little bit later, Ron. So I'm going to save this for the top of the hour, this piece that I sent you guys on Friday, more about Jonathan Taylor's touches in production and what Reich is saying, because I think the philosophy of it is so fascinating as it relates to the team here in Tennessee. But the Tannehill point, not just this year or not coming back next year, but a contract extension. Titans fans, your thoughts. 615-737-1045. Jay Martin, Ramon, 1045 The Zone.
It's time for Window Nation's Back to School sale, where you can get 2 free windows with every 2 that you buy. Plus, pay nothing with no interest until 2025. That kind of rhymes right there. Lower your energy bills and raise the value of your home with new energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. Get an A+ in savings, Jay.
Absolutely. $60 million has been saved by customers from Window Nation on their energy bills. The value of your home, the curb appeal, but the energy bill is like 30 to 40%. You're paying more if your windows aren't sealed, especially when it's hot. Today, we're actually having a really nice day from a weather perspective, but you know what it's been, unseasonably just terrible throughout the summer. And if your windows haven't been sealed up, then you've been spending way, way, way more money than you needed to. Weather impacts those windows big time. And the deal for a company with, the average installer over 16 years experience, over 20,000 windows installed, trusted by over 100,000 homeowners, and that includes me because I'm a customer at Window Nation right now. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free on any style window from Window Nation. No limit, plus no payments, no down payments, no interest until 2025. Save thousands on your new windows and your energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. It's a real easy phone call to place. Do it this morning, 866-90-NATION. That's 866-90-NATION or online. Where, Mom?
At windownation.com.
So this is going to be real brief because we kept Buck really long because he made that Tannehill comment and felt like that needed to be explored a little bit more. I think it comes down to this, and I do want to talk about this piece about the Colts and Jonathan Taylor from ESPN from over the weekend. When we come back, and then Ron Slay will be in, and we'll have a blast with him. I think it comes down to this when the Tannehill discussion is there in terms of an extension and all this. I don't think there's a doubt that Tannehill gives you the best chance to win over the next couple of years of what's currently here.
Yeah.
He's the one that gives you the best shot. But do you believe he's going to get you where you want to go? Mm. And would you rather have the guy that gives you the best chance if you don't really believe that you have a chance? Mm. If you don't believe that, would you rather, try something different as opposed to running the same thing back out there and getting knocked out in the first playoff game year after year? And I'm not suggesting that's guaranteed to happen.
Right.
I will say this year for Ryan Tannehill is crucially important because of how last season ended. And you did have the excuses during the regular season of who he was working with and the injuries and the inconsistencies at practice with who he was able to throw to and all that. This year so far, you haven't had those concerns nearly as much. If he comes out this year, has a bang-up regular season, but goes out early in the playoffs again, is that going to – and then he gets extended, how are you going to feel about it?
Yeah.
Are you okay with having a Kirk Cousins-like guy, or really just a Ryan Tannehill-type guy, a guy that's sort of middle of the road for the next 2 to 3 years, taking cracks at it, even though you're looking up at a bunch of elite quarterbacks and wondering when can we have that? If Malik is 2 years away, are you cool trying this for 2 more years, even if you don't believe he can get you there? I think that's more the question.
If he's 2 years away, I almost say you're looking at a new quarterback. Quarterback.
Because you've seen it.
I've seen it. Those guys sit on the shelf. I mean, we're looking at a guy right now that's radiant Jordan Love, but he's not going to do it. Like, you know how many guys I've seen come behind the franchise guy and not actually make it on the field and go to other places? This is a bigger conversation for sure. We can get more into it, Jay.
Yeah, it's a bigger topic and certainly a juicy topic as well. And, of course, Tannehill he's under contract through next season, through 2023. Why Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor's touches and production are likely to fall this season. I read this piece and I immediately thought about the Titans because, well, these two teams are built similarly and have operated similarly, and they're in the same division. And we're paying attention to those guys a lot. If you're a Titans fan, you kind of have to. We will discuss that in detail. I think it's a really interesting look at the way Reich is building away from the idea of a bell cow running back. We'll talk about it. It's Jay Martin and Mo on 104.5 The Zone.
It is 9:02. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. Major League Baseball last night.
Ground ball into the shift. That'll be taken by Grissom. He throws to first base, and game one in this big series between these two rivals goes to the Braves. Braves laid it on him by a final score of 13-1.
William Contreras and Eddie Rosario hit back-to-back homers in the second inning. Ronald Acuna Jr. doubled 3 times, drove in 3 runs. Braves have won 7 straight. They've moved to within 4.5 games of New York for the NL East lead. Game 2 of the 4-game series tonight at Truist Park. First pitch set for 6:20. Dodgers ace and former Vandy star Walker Buehler will have season-ending elbow surgery. Alabama #1 in the AP preseason college football poll for the second straight season and 9th time overall. Ohio State 2, defending champion Georgia 3, Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5. Meanwhile, Tennessee received the most votes of others receiving votes. 4-star cornerback Jordan Matthews commits to Tennessee and the 2023 class of the Vols. And Miles Brennan, who was LSU starting quarterback early in the 2020 season but missed most of the past 2 seasons with injuries, is stepping away from college football. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? 4th hour, hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio is upon you, upon us. Blessed to bring it to you courtesy of All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Ramon Foster, Jonathan Schaefer. I'm Jason Martin at Ramon Foster at Schaefer on Sports at JMart Radio at JMart and Ramon. Slay will join us next segment. We'll hang out.
I'm about to send it to you, Jay.
Oh, the video you were just telling me about?
No, that's a tweet from
okay.
Skip last night, like hater of the year.
Oh, the Bronny thing?
I haven't seen it, so I guess I'm going to look at that here in just a second.
Was that a line stepper right there, man?
No, it's just Skip being Skip.
But I know he's a public figure now. I mean, it's LeBron's son. He's a public figure, but still. Like, I thought it was a bit of a line stepper, considering how much he's trashed LeBron. And I know that's not okay. To me, it's not at all.
Well, he's made a career off of trashing LeBron James.
But his kids, though.
I agree. I mean, I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it yet, but that sounds about right, doesn't it?
But the kid,
as wrong as that is,
Skip gonna have somebody break his face, man. If he does it, like you talk about the player, the adult, all you want to, but the kid, the guy ain't ever had a conversation with you, man.
Did you put it in the Slack?
Yeah, I put it in the Slack.
Out of here in real time.
Most parents I know would be very defensive.
Yeah. That's just low class.
And all you want to on LeBron. Say what you want to. You maybe even go personal with him if you need to, because that's what you do with him. But to attack the kid, I thought that was just low class, like you said, man.
That is what it is. That's gross, man.
Yeah. Like, and again, he's a public figure. We criticize kids all the time, but he specifically went after this kid for.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. I saw Freezing Cold Takes over the weekend.
Yeah.
Said him and Stephen A. I think it was. I think it was those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
They have put a moratorium on how many Freezing Cold Takes tweets they're going to put out about those guys because they're so wrong so often.
Goodness.
Now, they have a lot of airtime, and when you talk a lot, you're going to be wrong a lot.
Yeah.
But some stuff, it's the same thing as how much Skip hates Aaron Rodgers. And so because he loved Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And so Aaron Rodgers has never done anything right pretty much in his entire career. It's the same kind of thing. But the tweet from Skip Bayless was, "Hey, Bronny, impressive, but your dad would have dunked it left-handed. You sure got away with it, though." All right, buddy.
He caught his first body as far as dunking on somebody, and he took off. I was actually watching the game. I didn't see him taking off like that and dunking on him. And the right hand was the best hand to do it with. The kid wasn't suspecting it, and he called him one in France. By the way, they're playing California basketball. camp or something like that, and they're playing a worldwide tour right now. They're in Paris, France, and the Paris team was actually really good too, by the way. But he called him a body. It was a good dunk. Like most parents see their kids do something like that or involved in sports, you're going to be over the top excited. Right hand, left hand, two hands don't matter. I was hyped for him when I saw it, and I was like, yeah, like he did. This kid still is a teenager, man. And Skip, that was bad, man. That was real bad. You got to ask yourself, like, what's Skip's attachment? And I know he's so detached, Jade. One thing that I've realized too, you said this about him, is he sends out tweets and he'll never see yours.
Yeah, he doesn't follow anybody.
No.
And he literally just fires out what he wants to fire out. He has no interest in what you have to say.
Even if you at him, he's still not going to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a tough world to live in. Like, where do you attack a guy like that? And that's why guys, find their own path and doing their own thing and start talking about guys in the media. Skip is different. This has been his thing, him versus LeBron.
That's right.
And you'd almost say to him, well, Skip, why don't you invite him onto your show? Have a sit down with him. There's been other controversial relationships like this, right? With, media, an analyst versus an athlete, a reporter versus an athlete, where they have a sit down. Skip, you're so paid up now. You've been doing it for so long. You went from one network to another one, and your name was on both the shows. How can you not go approach LeBron? Like, where are you at these sporting events to actually hang your hat and say, I'm going to talk about you, but I'm going to show up? He doesn't show up. That's low class right there, man, especially going after a guy's kid.
I agree. We'll talk more with Slay when he comes in about that. I wanted to touch on this. I had sent this to you guys on Friday. I just found it really interesting. I'm just going to read from it directly. It's ESPN. It was back on the 13th. Stephen Holder wrote this. It says, for fans, questions about the workload of Jonathan Taylor this season are tied mostly to fantasy implications and our overall obsession with stats. But for Frank Reich, the questions about his star running back are more existential. They are at the core of a conversation about what kind of team the Colts hope to be in 2022. Reich says, the goal is not to lead the league in rushing. The goal is not to make Jonathan Taylor the MVP of the league. The goal is to win championships. He knows that, and we all know that. That's what we're all about. And then he got more specific. Quote, you don't see teams that have this ground and pound run game win championships. You just don't. I'm sure it's happened with one or two teams, but our best formula is balance. I'm not saying he won't lead the league in touches because you never know how things are going to play out, but I almost don't want him to. And then it says this is back to the piece now. These aren't just arbitrary statements either. This is a topic the Colts have been talking about for quite some time. Even while Taylor was on his way to leading the NFL with 1,811 rushing yards last season. And their conclusions make it clear Taylor's usage could drop possibly sharply this season. For Reich and the Colts, they were run heavy down the stretch, and Reich believes it's unsustainable to run the ball as often as they were with Jonathan Taylor down the stretch last season. It goes into other things. They want him to have a long career, all of this. It says, take, for example, the Colts' offensive approach in weeks 11 to 16. 186 combined rushes, 126 pass attempts. That's about as ground and pound as it gets. It's rarely seen in the NFL. It's not what you're going to see from the Colts in 2022. They were fifth lowest mark in the league were the Colts passing last year. 52.6% were passing plays. That's probably because of who their quarterback was, you would think, at least. But it talks about the coaches and the balance and doing everything that they can and trying to get other backs more involved. Nyheim Hines, that's where you get into a Hassan Haskins discussion and all of that. I just find much of this interesting because they were succeeding with Jonathan Taylor running the ball.
Yeah.
But what he said was win championships, and ground and pound doesn't win championships. And that continues to be the debate raging around the Tennessee Titans is, can this work?
Can it work?
If a championship is the goal here?
Yep.
Or is there a ceiling to this that will flame out at some point in the playoffs, if not before then?
Nate Washington's conversation we had was probably by far the most telling when it come down to guys that was in that era and played and watch how they play ball like that. And now him on the back end of seeing, look, you got to kind of have more balance. You got to be able to, start a game off going 5, 6, 7 passes in a row, maybe with a first down run or a third and short type of run. Like, that's been a recipe for a lot of teams. And again, when you speak of balance, what was one of the biggest things that the Bills said they wanted to do this year, Jay? They had to find a running back. So it's not like the running game doesn't work. It's a need for it. It's a necessity. It's a game control aspect, which is where the Titans have lived majority of the offense for the last few years is we're going to control the flow of the game. But the balance side of what we're asking, throw the ball. Hey, be able to keep defenses honest. It's only so much you can do to where your tendencies get picked up by everybody else. The play action routes and stuff. And I know Derek brings fear to defenses, okay? But with what the Colts are saying, they acknowledge the only service that Matt Ryan gives them is a more competent quarterback to balance out their offense that was very Jonathan Taylor happy last year, right?
Because you
That's
trusted that guy
Yeah.
with the ball in his hands more than you trusted your QB1.
Yep.
A lot more.
Oh, he might have a drop-off in carries and yards this year. No,
That's
will.
that's what they're basically telling you. Don't
will.
expect, like, if he doesn't lead the league in rushing, that's by design. And Jonathan Taylor understands that.
Well, what does he do well, though, too, Jay, out the backfield? He catches the ball. That's been a huge asset of his. Not crowning him, but they're publicly letting you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they knew what their deficiencies was.
What I find amazing about that is if that's true, and I think that I agree with what Reich is saying here in general, why didn't they go grab a receiver?
Wow.
I mean, I guess you could still get Odell or somebody like that, but that's still the biggest question mark for that football
Colts
team is they've got Pittman Jr., who's a stud.
Yeah, he is.
But then they've got guys. They've got Pascal. I think he's still there.
Yeah.
They've got a few. They've got what? Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is he there?
Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not sure, Jay. I had to look at their roster. You
Or
know
is that the Lions? I can't remember. There's somebody else that's there that's a name that I should recognize. But if you were going to do that, then why don't you actually bring in a receiver?
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised if that's the philosophy that you didn't necessarily
address that position.
Right. Because you need that position to, I mean, you lost Jack Doyle, he retired.
Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton, again, over the last few years, he's a great player, but he just can't stay healthy. So you've got Pittman and you got a bunch of dudes for the most part. That's a concern. That's a question. If you're a Colts fan, it's just like, all right, so you want to pass the ball more, but to who?
Yeah.
Same thing with Green Bay.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing there?
Paris Campbell's the other guy.
Paris Campbell.
Campbell. Yep. Kiki Kuti, Ashton Doolin, Ethan Fernia, Isaiah Ford, DeMarcus Harris, DeMichael Harris, DJ Montgomery.
You could just be making up names right now.
I'm telling you, Desmond Patman, Alec Pierce.
That's just a name generator from the Google.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just a thing. That's just a bunch of words you're spouting out that are names.
You know what? Hoo. That's basically what you're doing right now.
Yeah, Pascal's gone. Zach Pascal's gone.
Yeah, yes. And then, of course, you got Shaquille Leonard, formerly known as Darius Leonard. He's on PUP right now.
That's
yeah.
It's interesting that's your philosophy, but you didn't address that position in a league where if you don't have that position right,
no,
you're not doing very much.
And
these
Pascal's
days.
not there. Mo Alley Cox. These are tight ends. You're right. I'm gonna say these names. You wouldn't even know them. So,
like, I think Taylor's still going to end up getting over 50% of the offensive snaps because he's certainly the player that they're going to trust the most. But maybe Ryan can make some guys where Wentz couldn't. I don't know. Pittman's the only one that I trust out of that group.
Yeah.
We'll come back. Ron Slay will be here. It's Jay Martin and Mo on 104.5 The Zone. J Mart and Ramon 104.5. The Zone Slay will be popping in fashionably late as always here in just a second.
I think he said he was going to call in today, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, yeah, I see him calling right now.
Of course he is.
I did not know that. So apparently Skip said this morning on TV, I think, about the Bronny tweet. I wasn't criticizing Bronny. I was merely commenting on a young man who's clearly going to be a focal point for this show and everybody else from this point forward. So he's basically telling you, get ready for me to dog out this kid for the next couple decades.
Oh, man. All right, man. This might be the takedown of Skip Bayless. I say that, but I doubt that's the case. God.
It's just what he does.
That's what he does. When does that become unacceptable, though?
Well, the thing about it is he's already made enough money that it doesn't matter.
It's always that. It's always that, but the class and responsibility of it is where
he's not going to be seen very well after he's gone.
No. There'll be people, ecstatic about that.
But if he loves his life, and I have always heard he's a good dude. I've heard that from a lot of people. He's just a nice guy, all that kind of stuff. But the character is a different animal. Slay's a character.
Yeah.
What's up, Slay?
Savage?
What's going on, fellas?
Is that you? That doesn't sound like your voice.
Well, sometimes when you're nestled away in your man cave just chilling. Have you ever sat down on cold leather?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling, man. It's a nice feeling.
Don't let your face stick to the couch is all I'm saying.
No, when I lay down, I said sit down. When I lay down, I got my nice pillow right here and everything. I got my cozy blanket and everything. I got you guys on the big screen, so I'm just cool, man, on this cool little Tuesday,
That's a cool flex.
Ready for tomorrow. That's what I'm ready for.
Absolutely.
So Skip and Shannon did 25 minutes to open their show today on that 5-second clip.
They did.
Of LeBron?
Yeah, 25 minutes on the Bronny dunk. Just so you know. What do you think of Skip and his backhanded line to Bronny about to go after LeBron yet again?
Man, I think it's begging for attention. Like, you gotta have something that you cling to. And with Skip, we know it's the Cowboys and it's LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
His guy was Kawhi. Kawhi's been shut down for the last 2 years, so he ain't been able to hang on to him. He wants to get attention from Russ. Russ gives him a little bit of attention, but it ain't the attention that he's looking for because Russ kind of ends it. It ain't no back and forth for Russ or Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? KD ain't going to give you the time of day. He going to say something and get on out the way. So, when you talk about mega stars, that's the only person he can go after. Like, honestly, I don't even watch it.
Yeah.
Because to me, Shannon is too far gone.
Agreed.
When you start talking basketball. And I'm not at all talking about his knowledge of the game. I think he's very knowledgeable of the game, but I think he rides it too much to counter what Skip is saying. And then Skip plays on it too much, So, that can't be the lead of the show, man. Like, cut it out, man. Bronny and them doing a great thing, man, especially where high school sports is now. Like, I can only imagine at that level being able to travel like that. Oak Hill was traveling, we're playing the tournament like every 3 or 4 years going overseas. But, man, to be able to go outside of your school,
mm-hmm.
your private school, taking a trip like that, he got a collective group of guys taking a trip overseas to do a tour. Like, that's pretty dope, man. When you start talking about exposure and brand, and I know football moves the needle, man, and that's why I always ask people, like, can basketball ever catch up in the United States? Would it be in a global game, which football, it is to an extent, but man, when you go around the world, basketball is just something else, man, because you get to see these guys, you get to see their faces, and now you got guys being able to jump into the game from foreign guys being able to jump into the game and them being noticed just as much. It's a different world in that basketball realm, man.
So I want to hear you laugh, so I'm just going to say this. University of Kentucky.
Get what? See, I'm gonna tell you what. See, sometimes, Jay, when you really want to dive on in, you tell them get what, you leave the S's off of it. You know, so I'm G-U-E, get what?
Get what?
Get what? Hey, man, I listen, man. I went live last night. You know, at Strikeout Wings, smoked out Monday, 6-10. You know what I mean? Y'all can slide through, smoke some cigars with your boy, have some great wings. But outside of that, you know, I went live, man, just to see who all was tapping in, man. So my dog jumped on the Antoine Walker, the great Antoine Walker, man. He jumped on the live. You know, we rapped a little bit, then we rapped off air. You know what? Sometimes you ain't gotta say what you are. You know. Like, there's no need to have to big yourself up by pushing up off of someone, because if you are who you are, they're going to push you up regardless. You ain't got to push up off them. They're going to lift you up. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people get celebrated, they run around, lift the coach up. They chant his name. They toss him up in the air. You'll never see no coach saying, hey, lift me up, man. Hey, man, let them see me. I'm the coach. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Everyone knows it's a basketball school.
Yep.
Everyone knows it. I mean, it is what it is, man. Just dating back to Lord knows when. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. All them old banners up there, we know it when we walk in there. We know what Rupp Arena is. Man, come on. Don't put down the other programs, man. That ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All you got to do he should have learned from Saban. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, come on, Cal. That ain't right, man. Not especially what Stoops is building. I think Stoops threw the exact punch back as far as a counter that you needed to throw when you say, man, I didn't inherit a program that was on third base. It couldn't have got any greater than that. Like, that was it, man. That was beautiful. So I think that was the walk-off, man, the bat flip and everything. You don't need to say anything else, man. And Cal trying to straighten it back up, that ain't the right thing to do, man. And I think when you look at it, making those comments like that, and then looking at it in a bigger scope, you saying Kentucky is not the University of Kentucky. He was saying it's the University of the state. Like, this is it. Like, you know, hey, man. Louisville got the most recent championship, and I don't care nothing about it being taken down or anything. We saw them win their championship game. Kevin Ware would say they won their championship game as his broken leg.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you talking that junk. Man, Louisville got Kenny Pickett, brother. You ain't been nothing since Pickett left, for real.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you can say what you want, but man, that red school got something to say about it now.
When it comes down to Kentucky, and of course, what is the SEC's model? It just means more, right? Or it means more. When Cal is asking for a new practice facility and his superiors say no, the donors say no, he has to go to the media basement and stoke the fire, say, you tell me no, but I'm the reason people talk about Kentucky. What does that actually say about him? You know, like, that's the bigger question. Why would you tell a guy like Cal that starts every year in the top 10 preseason, if not top 5, no? Is it because it's been since 2012? Is that why?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it. I think the boosters are a little upset with him because they have this standard, and that's the whole thing. Like, you walked into it, that standard was already set. You didn't make that the standard at Kentucky to win national championships. If anything, you've lived under it.
Yes.
And they don't hold on to coaches that live under it that long. Tubby Smith. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. You inherit a team and you go to a national championship. They wanted Tubby out of us so fast, it was crazy.
They did.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, come on, dog. So, when you say it means more, man, and it does in the SEC, it's almost like the NFL, man. There's nobody bigger than the Shield. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, Alabama's running tit for tat with it, you know, if you want to have a comparison, but we see what happened when New England lost Brady.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if Saban will walk away from Alabama, I mean, well, it is what it is. So I just think, man, you can't do that when you thinking of yourself that much. You know what I mean? I think that's showing that you're thinking of yourself a whole lot. Because if that was the case, you won't even have to ask all these people. You threw out in the article that, man, I can just go ask all my draft picks.
Yeah.
Look at Anthony Davis. He gave 300. But shoot, go ask him. Go ask him. You got to get an okay for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if you came to him and said, "Hey, man, I got $10 million ready to roll, man. Anybody want to work with it?"
Yeah.
I mean, Cal
jump on it.
I mean, Ryan, Cal is probably gone based on his success, if not for the recruiting, if not for the number of number one classes. Because, look, I lived in that state for a long time, and they cared just as much about being top in recruiting, it felt like, because that gave them the hope that they needed. But, I mean, looking at what he's done with that talent, it's at least fair that there's a lot of dudes that would have been out on their keisters based on some of the way those teams have finished. I mean, he's got one championship.
Yeah, like, I mean, you ain't lying. You ain't lying, Jay. I mean, if you go outside of that one championship, and you look at his record versus Rick Barnes' record, I mean, what have they done different?
Yeah.
Rick Barnes got SEC championships. Rick Barnes got SEC tournament championships. He got draft picks. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Now, of course, he's not doing it at that high of a clip because that's not the way he recruits. But like you said, man, that's what's saving him. So I think he's rode the coattails of being the one-and-done guy to change the landscape of college basketball, and that is what's saving him. But you did see going into this year 2 or 3 5-star guys pull back on Kentucky. And, like, you never see that. You never see it. Once you go to Kentucky or once you go to Duke or once you go to Kent, you don't see nobody flopping on their commitment. You know, Scott Clark went to Illinois.
Wow.
That ain't a good look. The kid that got drafted, I forgot his name, but he pulled out and decided not even to play. He was eligible to play in the second semester of school.
Oh, yeah.
And decided not to play. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen at Kentucky, man. So, I mean, how long do you get to ride that? I've been hearing rumblings up there behind the scenes for the last 2 years from boosters, alums, and it always somehow is a saving grace. He gets a pass for early season mistakes or blunders when you lose, and then picks it up during the season, starts to give hope, and then you run into St. Peter's.
But then you finish it up by getting like 3 first-rounders, so he's back safe.
Yeah, and there you go, So I mean, you can ride with it, but with the way that the landscape of college basketball is, it's almost a neutralizer for him getting those one and done guys when you start to be able to go get guys in the transfer portal. And you got a Tennessee going to get the kid out of Indiana State, Tyreek Key, and bringing him in. So with your tit for tat that you're going, and you're going to get names, isn't measuring up and not equaling wins. So you go get Obi Toppin's brother to bring some more claim to it, and that doesn't work out. You know, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. And this right here could be him taking the brakes off the bike and getting ready to go downhill.
Wow.
It definitely seems that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be an easy jump, I believe, to jump from now I did what I did and maybe go to the league, or just walk away and go get another college job. Like you could go to Westwood. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe.
Savage, Buck dropped a nugget on us, man, and he kind of, did a drive-by with it, and Jay picked it back up, said, no, my brother.
No, when he said that, we had to go back to that. I don't know if you heard it or not, but he said he believes Ryan Tannehill is going to get a contract extension.
Yeah, man, I heard it, man. But the thing about it, man, I've been on that caboose for a minute. After hearing him come in and talk the way he did after the press conference, even with the stuff that to me was taken a little bit out of context as far as the Malik not mentoring and doing that thing, but to me sounded different. And the guys that are competitors that have lasted in this league this long, that haven't been able to trick anyone, you had to go out there and do it on your play and earn it. sounded to me like he was going to be a guy to have a bounce-back year.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into it, if you're going to rely on a guy like Malik Willis, if nobody else comes up in free agency, I think Malik is 2 years away regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think he was going to come back and have a honestly really, really good season. Could be one of his best seasons. I don't know what he would do after the contract extension, but I do think he won't be the conversation going into next year. It would more so be on him trying to take less money and ride it out with an extension for one more year, man. I honestly believe that. I'm on board with that with Tannehill.
Yeah, and that's what I was at with it. And we've brought this up and had that conversation time and time again about, Tannehill's relatively cheap. If you can build around him and still develop Malik, if that's the route they're choosing to go, that sets you up for a more stable above line team. So when the opportunities are right, because winning is hard. All coaches tell you that, and I love when they emphasize that to fans and to the players too. That look, this is a hard job of winning week in and week out. And Tannehill does help with that. Does he have his deficiencies? Yes. But to Jay's point earlier, Kirk Cousins, he continues to go back to the table. He continues to get the job done. They finally getting the wide receiver that they really love in Justin Jefferson. And if we're doing the fantasy, I'm taking him first this year. Just got to throw that out there. And that's what you want from a team, right? You don't want to be bottom feeders all the time or up and down.
No, you don't, man. You don't. And you always want to be able to have a front office that's able to figure it out by being able to put pieces together. And that seems to be, outside of the draft, is what J-Rob and Vrabel and them are able to do. It looks like they kind of got their foundation laid, and they got a model that they want to roll with. And honestly, I mean, it's a successful model. When you put all BS to the side and things that take place, it's a successful model, man. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to be out of the playoffs every year, struggling to go get a number 1 pick, a number 2 pick, or some of that nature? You don't have an opportunity to do anything. Not right then. At least right now. I'm not saying the window's wide open or it's a big gap, but you at least got a window. I ain't saying it's open, but you got one to look out of. You're not sitting in the attic with no windows, with just 4 walls closing in. So, I mean, I'm taking it for now. Now, when you got this defense, I think it's something that can get you over the hump. You just don't need a guy. You don't need an above-average quarterback to lose a playoff game for you. Yeah. You can have this defense go win a playoff game for you. I think it's simple as that.
There it is.
All comes down to January.
It does.
I'm just gonna keep on saying that. Just comes down to how he plays in January. If we have another January 22nd moment, I don't know if you survive that if you're Ryan Tannehill. But if you're not the cause of it and you go out there and you score 40 and your offense is rolling, then we can have a different discussion perhaps after that. What's coming up on your fine program today, Ron?
Man, this time I know, man. Last time I
yeah. It's helpful, isn't it?
It is. We got Jim White coming on, man. We got Alan Bell, and we got Phil Steele, man. Yep. I think everybody they ought to be lined up to listen to Phil Steele, man. He gave a lot of nuggets about college football landscape in general and the SEC. I think there's some surprises out there. One surprise for sure is how he has the SEC East shaken out. Man, it shocked me. It shocked me. So
I haven't seen his. I haven't seen his magazine this year.
Oh man, that's good, man. I'm gonna be honest. Like this dude, man. Woo, some people can talk and have a lot of information, but put you to sleep. Yeah, he didn't have to put his fingers on the chalkboard not one time, man. It was all good with him. I could listen to him all day. One thing I do need to say, man, I need to know who on this Vandy train with me, man. Are we not going over 3? We don't think we're going to be 3-0 going into, 2-0 going into the Wake Forest game?
Nah.
You ride with him on?
I hopped off a long time ago.
Because people didn't care for you trying to rile them up?
Trying to help them. Tried to help Vandy. Nope. No. Can't do nothing for him.
Y'all gonna let me ride around by myself? Y'all don't think Hawaii and Elon? Y'all don't think they're going 2-0?
0-2, baby.
Hey, man, my aunt used to be the head librarian at Elon.
What you say, Seth?
My aunt used to be the head librarian at Elon. So
hey, shout out to Mike Wright though.
Turn 0-2, savage.
0-2, screw Vandy. It's football season, baby.
Safe. What you doing? You riding with me?
Of course, because Ramon's just being.
You said Elon, and what was the other one? Hawaii?
Hawaii.
Man, they hate everybody there. The Hawaii football program hates every teammate, every coach, every alumni. That was worse than the Pruitt situation in Tennessee by like 10 times. It was worse than Auburn and Brian Harsin.
Y'all lost me on Vandy, man. I tried to help y'all and try to bring them. That anchor wouldn't pull up. That's the reason they shouldn't be anchored down. It wouldn't pull it up.
Hey, man, let me just say before I get out of here, man, everybody switch to almond milk, man. I had some 2% on accident this morning, boy. Woo! That's part of the reason I couldn't make it in, y'all. But I'm gone. I'm out of here.
Unsweetened almond milk, vanilla flavored. That's the truth.
I can't believe he just gave us his digestive issues.
I appreciate that he's taking almond milk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't need the lactose.
You don't need milk heavy.
I piss down my leg.
You get milk light. Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Just was like, all right, whatever, Mom. I tried.
Just like Vanderbilt. Anchor down, which means that boat's not going anywhere.
I've never understood
It's
that.
never made any sense. People don't get it.
Sense to me.
Hey, you called me. You was like, just because Moan, and you agree with me that the
anchor down's the dumbest thing in the world.
It's never made sense.
It means you're anchored down, but it means your boat's not going anywhere.
You're just sailing in circles, brah. Yeah. That's all you're doing with the anchor down.
Yeah, I tried to help.
You're just sitting there hoping your fish finder's going on.
Pretty much, and hope you got a net so you can eat, man. That's it.
Freaking bum.
We'll come back. We'll finish up. It's Jay Martin, Ramon 104.5 The Zone. So we were mocking Anchor Down, and we get a reply in the chat. And I just assumed it was said like Napoleon Dynamite would have said it.
Yeah.
It says, it's a defensive term, not meant for the full team. Dude, but the full team, the slogan needs to apply to everything.
Yeah.
Butt hurt.
That's jailhouse snacks right there, buddy. Like, offense got to score points, too. Your slogan can't just be about your defense if it's supposed to represent the whole team. Like, how about anchors away so that it's us sailing into the wild blue yonder together? Something like that.
I don't know.
Also, your defense ain't been good.
Should I read off these scores?
Oh.
I like the all. Lost. We'll just do 2 scores, okay, Jay? Defense. It's for the defense. They lost 23-3 to East Tennessee State. ETSU, okay? And the next score, if we're speaking about defense, Georgia, 62-0. Come on, y'all. You can't say that. Who's an equal opponent? Missouri lost 37-28 to them. Stanford, a very like-minded school.
Wait, how many points you score against Missouri?
How many they scored against Missouri? 28.
Oh, okay. All right. They still scored points. Did everybody
they
score
did.
points
They
against
let
them?
almost drop 40 on them. But Stanford, 41-23. Like, come on, man. Like, I was rooting for y'all, Vanny. Your fans turned me this way. I don't want to be this way.
That was just like, if you've got to explain Anchor Down, come up with something else. Like, don't leave it up to confusion.
Well, I saw a video they released today where they were putting the logo on the football helmets, and I'm like, that Valparaiso logo looks great on those Vanderbilt helmets.
Villanova,
Valdosta State.
Maybe V is actually V is wishful thinking for Roman numerals in terms of how many wins they're hoping to get this year.
I hope they do.
Can we get to 5 within the next 3 years?
I tried to help.
They do have. They may have a quarterback.
Harold, he's back. He said, "Hit him with the iceberg."
See, now he's having fun with it.
Hit him with the
Good work, Harold. I appreciate you.
Yeah, Power V. Y'all better not. Kentucky already tried to take the checkerboard. Well, they're trying to use it more often. There is a history.
Vandy Eli saying, y'all going to make me cry. You talking about us or you talking about your own university?
See, and that's where we wrap up.
It's a Turd Tuesday, Eli. Buck Rising's coming up next.
Brick by brick. We didn't. No, that was 1 year. Y'all are anchored down every year.
The anchor is always down because they ain't going anywhere. Ramon Foster, Jonathan Schaefer, I'm Jason Martin. We got 4 more hours tomorrow. Buck is chomping at the bit to get in here. He's got more for you next. See you tomorrow.
And remember, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.
Not really an athlete.